The head coach is already becoming one of the most impressive coaching hires in recent memory, based on how he's approaching player development and accountability. He's already holding players accountable regardless of their status, including the veteran forward who signed this offseason. That forward also recently discussed the new challenges he's facing and his evolving role with the organization, so let's break down all these latest developments and what they mean for the team's identity going forward. The head coach wants to see significantly better defense from the veteran forward, and he's not afraid to communicate that directly. Whether you're a star player or a role player on this roster, the coach will have something to say to you if you make mistakes on the court. That's called accountability, and it's something this fan base has been desperately craving. Everyone saw that recent preseason game where the forward's defensive effort and execution was simply not good enough. The coach didn't run away from addressing it publicly or try to sugarcoat the performance. He actually acknowledged it directly and made specific comments about what he observed. According to the head coach's post-game comments, he thought it was a great opportunity for the forward to get some extended minutes at the center position and see how he handles that responsibility. It's tough for him mentally, and he was overthinking things a little bit, which is naturally going to happen when learning a new system, and that overthinking kind of brought his overall game to a halt in other areas beyond just defense. The coach noted that in the second half, the players' energy level and activity were noticeably better. He started feeling more comfortable and confident in the second half of the game, but there's going to be a learning curve for him as he adapts. The coach has stated publicly that both the veteran forward and the star center who play front court positions have the most on their plates in this new system because they essentially have to know all 5 positions on the floor and read and react properly in what's being described as a conceptual offense, rather than a rigid play-calling system. What's impressive about this coach and what you constantly see him do in press conferences is that when he discusses a player's performance, he does it in what could be called a sandwich method. First, he gives you the top layer with some positive reinforcement and praise. Then he addresses the middle section, where he identifies what could genuinely be better and needs improvement. Then he ends it with another compliment or context, stating that it's still a new system everyone is learning and giving them time to develop because not only will they get better, they're going to start truly thriving once everything clicks. Hopefully, that's exactly the case for the veteran forward, because the defense that was on display was simply not acceptable for a team with championship aspiration. It's absolutely clear from watching the tape that this forward can never be the lone big man on the floor in certain matchup situations. If he's on the court, then the coaching staff has to pair him with the star center, or the young shot-blocking center, or the veteran rim protector. He needs another legitimate big man out there alongside him because his natural play style and body type is more suited to power forward rather than center despite his size and strength. But this accountability culture and approach we're seeing from the new coach is exactly what the fan base has always wanted to see at this level. During that preseason game, the coach went several steps further than just verbal critique. First, he substituted the forward out of the game after poor defensive possession. Then he had a direct conversation with him on the sideline about his defensive lapses. And then critically, he put him back into the game relatively quickly to see if the player listened and absorbed the coaching, to evaluate whether that defense improved based on their sideline conversation. But it's really about the broader point and principle being established. When you see a mistake happening repeatedly, you call a timeout or make a substitution, and you don't just leave it alone hoping it fixes itself. You actively talk to the player, you communicate with them directly, and you let them know specifically what you want to see executed and what they're doing wrong that needs correction. When the forward spoke with media members after the game, he confirmed exactly that type of communication occurred. After consecutive poor defensive possessions in the second quarter, where he was beaten backdoor on one play and completely out of position while being taken off the dribble on another, the coach substituted him out and had a quick, pointed conversation before subbing him back in. While speaking with reporters, the forward revealed the nature of the conversation that took place on the sideline. According to him, they had a direct conversation about what was happening in real time during the game. They discussed a specific situation that occurred and what the coach wanted him to do better moving forward. After all, preseason represents a good time to flatten that learning curve and make mistakes in games that don't count in the standings. Here's what the forward had to say about his own play and mindset. "I'm really trying to be as focused as I possibly can to try to get every detail correct and make sure I'm at the right spot on the floor. For me, it's a new team with new teammates I'm still building chemistry with, so I really try to fit into the system properly and be a solution to problems rather than creating problems myself." But against that opponent in the preseason, his defense was genuinely a problem that needed addressing. But thankfully, the coach knew exactly what to do and exactly what to say in that moment. Pulling the forward aside and having that conversation sets an important standard and precedent. It lets everybody on the entire roster know that if you make mistakes, this type of coaching intervention is going to happen to you regardless of who you are. Whether you're a max contract star player or a minimum salary role player, if you make consistent mistakes and your execution isn't fitting exactly what the coach wants to see out there on the court, he is going to call a timeout or make a substitution and do the exact same accountability process. And everybody knows when they're out there playing that it's not about individual performance or statistics, it's about the team's success collectively. Speaking about the team's new identity, everyone has seen that new high-paced, fast-tempo offense under the new coaching staff, and the veteran forward clearly sees it and feels the difference physically. Recently, in that same media session, he spoke about some specific challenges he's facing with his new role on this roster. Listed officially at 265 pounds, he's carrying around a big body and frame for this speed-oriented system that emphasizes constant movement and transition opportunities. Here's what the forward had to say about adapting to the new role and demands. For sure, it's a pretty big learning curve, learning the offense, and also just the constant running. So the biggest key for me personally was just to run all the time up and down the court. Try to run to the basket in transition. Try to make the other teams tired, like we've discussed as a team strategy. This is what genuine accountability looks like in practice. It's because the coach wants the absolute best performance out of his players. And when you want the best from your players, you hold them accountable for the actions and decisions they make out there on the court. And if they're wrong or making mistakes, you tell them directly that they're wrong, without worrying about potentially hurting feelings. You're not worried about creating locker room issues or turmoil by being honest. It's never about protecting egos or managing personalities. It never was about those things. It's about wins and losses. It's about winning games. It's about getting to the championship round and winning a title. That's what this organization is building toward. It's not about individual accolades or personal statistics anymore. It's about team accolades, winning as a collective unit and pursuing a championship as a complete team. Going back to the veteran forward specifically, the fan base has wanted to see more impact and production from him since he signed. And, honestly, he hasn't quite hit that mark yet through the preseason games. And even though he hasn't fully delivered on expectations yet, there's full belief and confidence that he will get there with more time. It's only preseason exhibition games. It's just a few games into his tenure. And, even more significantly, he's learning a completely new role and system under a new coaching staff. That type of adjustment doesn't happen overnight or in a couple of weeks. The reason why most of the returning players on the roster don't look like they're struggling in preseason basketball is because of chemistry and system familiarity carrying over from last season's success. But some of these new additions are naturally going to struggle a little bit early on because they don't have that built-in chemistry yet. They don't fully understand the offense yet, or their specific role yet, or how to play optimally with certain teammates who have different playing styles. That understanding is going to come with time and game experience. The same developmental process is going to happen with this veteran forward. His defense was poor in that game, and everyone can acknowledge that reality honestly. However, when the organization signed him to this contract, there was understanding about exactly why they pursued him as a free agent. He was going to provide offense through scoring, knock down some three-point shots, grab some rebounds with his size and strength, and if things went well, he could potentially improve defensively and give the team more on that end than he'd shown in previous stops. But that defensive improvement was more of a hope and projection rather than a guarantee. Nobody knew exactly if he was going to step up defensively to the level required for championship basketball. It's still early in his tenure, and there's belief he will improve. But the expectations need to be realistic and grounded. He's not going to suddenly become an elite rim protector or defensive anchor. But there's also understanding that when you play around very good defenders every day in practice and games, just by being in that environment and competing against high-level defensive players, you yourself naturally become a better defender through osmosis and competition. So that level of defensive development is expected from him over the course of the season. But he shouldn't be criticized too harshly, because even the coach isn't destroying him publicly. Yes, the coach pulled him aside and spoke directly to him about his defensive lapses. And yes, the forward himself admitted there are numerous things right now going on that he's trying to figure out and learn simultaneously. The defensive schemes, the offensive system, the new pace of play, his evolving role. It's genuinely a lot to process and absorb in a short time frame. And that's why we really haven't seen the version of this player that everyone thought they were getting when he signed. But just because we haven't seen that player emerge yet, doesn't mean that after a few regular season games with real stakes and rhythm, we won't be seeing that impact player everyone envisioned. The forward is actively learning the system, but he's also preparing himself physically and mentally. And soon, he's going to be ready to have that bench impact everyone hoped for when he was signed. It's just going to take a little bit of time and patience. As the head coach stated clearly, there's a learning curve involved with this system. And right now, the veteran forward is deep within that curve, still climbing toward proficiency and comfort.